Welcome to this session. Thank you for joining us this morning right after the keynote. Hope you enjoyed the keynote. I'll take some parts of the keynote in our session and talk about what we are doing to help our customers to accelerate their journey to cloud as well as to become AI ready for their businesses. My name is Sunny Dua. I'm a product lead here at Google Cloud, focusing on Google Cloud VMware Engine. Today I'll be joined with my colleague Prashanth, who will be hosting a panel later on with our esteemed customers. We have Krishna, who's joined us from AutoZone. And then we have Damian, who's joined us all the way from Paris, from Renault Group. So we'll be having that panel session shortly, right after I go through some initial content. Again, thank you for choosing this session over others. I can promise you, if you sit in the front, you will get to see some great demos. Otherwise, you can squint your eyes and look at them as well. So if you want to move to the front for the demos, feel free to whenever you wish to. OK, let's just talk about the agenda. So I think it's important to start with AI. Just kidding. We'll talk a little bit about the modernization imperative, essentially talking about how the term modernization has evolved, how the term cloud migration has evolved over the last few years, and what does it mean now to customers, to businesses, to organizations, and how it has changed over a period of time. And then what exactly are the challenges because of that, which are coming up, and how to solve those challenges. Of course, we'll go deeper into Google Cloud VMware Engine specifically, and we'll touch upon how we take care of some of those use cases and challenges today. Then we'll jump into a live demo because, sorry, not a live demo, a recorded demo, where I'll take you through a journey of an application, which we are calling Bank of Alphabet. It's a model application, which is just like an enterprise banking application, which goes through this entire transformation of lift and shift, migration, and modernization. And I'll show you how it is possible without re-platforming or re-IPing your applications. So that'll be the demo, which I'm excited about. And then we'll jump into the panel session where our panelists will come and talk about their journeys and how they have been modernizing their businesses and accelerating time to market with Google Cloud as a whole, and specifically with Google Cloud VMware Engine. And if we have time, which I've been told we might not have, we will go into Q&A. All right, so I talked a little bit about the evolution of cloud migration. I mean, back in the day, I think 10 years ago, when I was presenting in a similar conference, I was talking about cloud being an extension of on-prem all the time, which means you need on-demand capacity, and that was the primary use case for which people wanted cloud, just to make sure that it can augment their data centers. And then pretty soon, customers and organizations realized that they do not want to be in the data center business because it's hard to manage a data center. It's better to manage what they want to run in the business for, whether it's retail, manufacturing, so on and so forth. And that's where data center exit became a key strategy for CIOs. And then later, as you exited the data center and came to the cloud and adopted the scale of cloud, you realized that you can actually modernize your applications to ensure that you can leverage the scale, the resiliency of the cloud. But now, very quickly, as people are in phase 2 and phase 3 of this journey, the generative AI bomb came in. And suddenly, everybody's like, do I modernize or do I do Gen AI? I need to be able to provide the same experience a startup is providing to my enterprise customers who've been out there for 10, 20, 30 years with us. How do I do that quickly? So let me just modernize all these applications. Oh, guess what? It takes years to do that. And hence, today we are going to demonstrate how you can quickly move your applications as is to Google Cloud to bring that data, which lives in your VMware workloads, onto GCVE, which is Google Cloud VMware Engine, and then combine that data with the power of our AI agent platforms so that you can provide the experiences you desire to provide today rather than 3 years or 5 years down the line. OK, with that, again, I talked a little bit about this, so I'll skip it. But it's important that you are able to do this because these are the trends which we are seeing in the market. There's clearly a divide between the blue and the red here, the blue being the good and the red being, are you sure you're there? Are you sure your business will survive over a period of time if you're not able to adopt this particular wave? And this is a little different than the standard adoption wave. And we all know, right? Today, each one of us, I can bet you, each one of us on our phone in some way or the other is using Gen AI for personal use. And then a lot of us are using Gen AI in our organizations. Imagine what your customers expect from you. They also expect similar interfaces and experiences on traditional enterprise applications, which are the doorway for your businesses for them. So it's important to be on the left as soon as possible. Let's talk about why it is a problem and why it is not easy to be there, especially when you're running on-prem. The first and the foremost, which is my favorite, is the data silos. Of course, we all understand that data is distributed in your on-prem locations. It is great that you can connect the data across different networks as well as different clouds, but it's always amazing, especially for your critical applications, to bring that data closer to where the AI action is happening. And that's where data silos, if exist in your organizations, can create problems. So how do you actually remove that silo? By bringing that data to where the decision making is happening. Second is vendor lock-in. And this is not about vendor lock-in on just infrastructure. This is about how your infrastructure is able to benefit from the AI architectures, which are evolving pretty quickly. So can you really build an AI architecture on-prem on your own and keep up with the pace of innovation which is happening in the market? And of course, last but not the least, we all know about the rising cost of hardware infrastructure because of limited supplies and shortages across the globe for silicon chips, memory, due to helium and other factors, as you all know. So it's important that instead of focusing on how do I budget for all these changes in the hardware infrastructure, you focus on how do you take that money and put that in the software infrastructure. And for the hardware infrastructure, leverage public clouds, which can provide you a rapid way of innovating with the changes which we are able to keep up with. Now, from a Google Cloud perspective, we have solved this problem for a number of customers, specifically because of our full stack AI approach. Today, in the keynote, we talked about the Gemini Enterprise Agent Platform, which was a full stack approach for agents. But we also talked about the underlying infrastructure, which is critical for having applications. The power, the cooling, the space, the data centers, et cetera, right up to the models which are available already for customers to lock in and use. And I'll show you an example of how you can use some of those Gemini foundational models today to extend your existing enterprise applications. And then on top of that, the experience piece with services and application, which allows you to adopt different services for different use cases, which I'll touch upon as we move forward. But very quickly, this chart shows you an end-to-end value proposition of how you can adopt generative AI across the infrastructure down up to the application layer. Now, moving on, one thing I wanted to focus on was, while we are talking about VMware today, we have a lot of customers over here who are not just using VMware on-prem, they have various different solutions on-prem. We have been working very closely with our partner ecosystem, Nutanix, with Red Hat, as well as VMware, to ensure that if you have a workload on-prem and you have a desire to move that to cloud without having to re-IP or re-platform, so that you can quickly accelerate your time to cloud as well as time to modernization, then you're able to bring them into the target platforms on Google Cloud itself, with Google Cloud VMware Engine, with NC2 on GCP, as well as Red Hat OpenShift Dedicated. And of course, you also have a direct pathway, and a lot of customers choose that as well, where they move and transform their workloads directly, either over time or at the time of first migration over to GCP, including GKE, GCE, Cloud Run, and so on and so forth. But right now, we'll be focusing a little bit about VMware Engine. All right, so what is VMware Engine? Let me just touch upon some key value propositions. This will be a couple of slides, and then we'll go directly into a demo so that you can see some of those things in the action. Now, around 7 years ago, one of our key goals at Google Cloud was to ensure that we have a safe pathway for enterprise customers to come over to Google Cloud. And the first key question customers had was that, do you have a VMware Cloud solution? Because 80 to 85% of my on-prem workloads are running on VMware. And that's where we built Google Cloud VMware Engine. When we were building it, we had the advantage of ensuring that we can bring the same level of resiliency, which we have for the rest of the Google ecosystem services, such as YouTube, ads, and search. And hence, I'm proud to say that we are the only provider of VMware Cloud who provide 4 nines of availability and uptime in a single zone deployment, which means for half of the infrastructure footprint, you're able to get the best resiliency out there for your VMware clusters. Again, this is just one example. The second key part is networking. The most complex thing, if you talk about in a data center, is network. And I'm sure a lot of network people over here will say, yes, we own that. But the reality is that taking your years of created network architectures on-prem over to cloud is not simple. It's extremely difficult. Primarily because you need to be able to customize it to the needs of the organization. More importantly, if you're a global organization, you need to be able to connect to various different endpoints together. And you have to make sure that you have the right firewalling, you have the right routing, and so on and so forth. Now, we solve that problem with a capability called Global VPC, which is unique to Google Cloud. The reason we have that capability is, again, because of our large-scale applications in the consumer space, such as YouTube, search, Gmail, et cetera. These are global applications which are already serving millions of customers, or billions of customers, I should say, across the planet. And all of this rides on the VPC construct, which we already have. When you adopt Google Cloud, you automatically get plugged into that global VPC construct. And if you're deployed, let's say, a VMware environment across 5 different geos, then as soon as you deploy that environment, you're able to connect that together with a global VPC without having to do complex network configurations across the board. A single policy can be simply applied to multiple locations through the global VPC concept. So that's a click button or a single click approach of deploying complex networks on top of GCP. And many of our customers are really happy about it. And hopefully, as we go through the panel, we'll talk a little bit about that as well. And last but not the least, the native service experience, which means you get the full enterprise-grade support. You have the native security, IAM constructs, as well as a critical thing around investments and commercialization, where we allow customers to take their commercial investments in GCVE and move them over to other Google products or Google Cloud products as they modernize those workloads over to those new platforms. We'll look at that in a little bit of detail as to how that works. Very quickly, touching upon where we are already available in 27 or 26 different geos, with the 27th one in Mexico, which is upcoming. So we already have customers who are deployed across global scale of all these regions. And we continue to grow as we get new demand from our customers. Again, one of the key aspects of moving a VMware workload to cloud, or to any workload to cloud, is the cost of ownership. And the first thing which we hear from customers is cloud must be expensive, because you only provide a single flavor of a hardware which I need to use whether I need it or not. The beauty of virtualization is that you're able to go ahead and consolidate your workloads and fit them into specific clusters so that you can save on software licensing cost, as well as ensure that you can pack maximum workloads or maximum number of workloads on a single node. To do that, you also need different node types so that you can select a specific node type for, let's say, your Oracle clusters, another node type for your Java applications, depending upon the memory and the storage needs. And that's what we actually do. We provide you 25 different node types today so that you can choose as to what is the best combination of nodes from a CPU perspective and from a storage perspective. And just to take it a step ahead, we've also introduced storage-only nodes, which ensures that you're able to scale storage independent of your CPU and memory scaling, which allows you to add more data-hungry applications on your VMware platform without incurring the cost for CPU as well as memory on the same infrastructure. That's where we are. We are on VE1 today and VE2. These are our 2 node types, which have various different flavors. And very soon, we'll be coming up with our next generation node type as well, which I'll not talk about today. Now, when it comes to nodes, you need to pay money to buy them. So that happens through investments, which happens through a pay-go model. So any cloud provider provides a pay-go or an on-demand model. We do the same. But on top of that on-demand model, we provide a capability of CUDs, or committed usage discounts. Now, CUDs are a construct which allows you to get a discount on the standard price for 1 or 3 years. So you're committing for more, you get more discount. But we introduced a concept on top of that called convertible CUDs or flex CUDs. What convertible CUDs allow you to do is bring your VMware workload, purchase a CUD, let's say for 3 years. You run that VMware workload for 2 years on the platform, and let's say right at the 2-year time point, you want to migrate that workload over to GCE, which is Google Compute Engine, or to Cloud Run, or you want to go ahead and decommission that workload for any reason. Now, you are able to take the remaining funds in your CUD and move them over to the next 3-year term automatically. So this allows you to take your existing investments and move them over and not necessarily have to burn them down because you committed for them to begin with. Till the time you are reusing that money to any of the compute engine platforms, you're able to reuse that with the convertible CUDs. Okay, so very quickly, there are multiple use cases today for which customers leverage Google Cloud VMware Engine. This is a slide which kind of goes into details of each one of them. I would not go into each one of them, but I'll pick up a couple of them, which are my favorites. One is mergers and acquisitions. So data center exit, data center migration is cool, but how cool it is that if you are a company acquiring 10 other companies in a year, you don't have to worry about going ahead and lifting and shifting all of those workloads or connecting to those data centers in different locations and moving them over to your data center. It's hard because you might not be in that location at all. That is where Google Cloud VMware Engine comes in. We have customers who connect to GCVE, to the mothership, with their mothership, which is their main data center, and then connect all their mergers over to GCVE and migrate those workloads over to us in the regions they want. And since they're connected to a trusted Google network, they do not have to worry about any security breaches. And they can do this as a repeatable playbook as they do new acquisitions. Other use case is around disaster recovery, backups, and we have multiple partners, including first-party services as well as third-party services, which are supported today to ensure that you can do backups as well as disaster recovery for your VMware workloads, either cloud to cloud, or cloud to on-prem, or on-prem to cloud, depending upon what your use case is. One of the key use cases which came up during the COVID timeframe was virtual desktops, which was also pretty exciting because you are able to spin up new desktops for different use cases, for remote work, for hybrid workforce, or for bring your own device. And last but not the least, I call it the application modernization bridge, which I will go ahead and demonstrate now on the next slide, where you can choose Google Cloud VMware Engine as a staging platform to either connect to AI services and extend and adopt AI for your business, or to modernize these applications over a period of time to move to Kubernetes or to Compute Engine or as functions if you wish to. So that's where this central platform allows you to take time and modernize as you want to, as your business needs to. Okay, with that, we'll jump into Bank of Alphabet. Bank of Alphabet is an application, it's a model application, which will go through this entire transition. So I'll take around 5 minutes to go through that demo and show you how we go ahead and plan and take you through that particular transition. Now, if you look at the transformation journey, it has various steps. It starts with assessing the application, figuring out how much capacity is required in order to go ahead and run this application on Google Cloud VMware Engine, establishing a landing zone, establishing connectivity, ensuring that you can deploy a private cloud, which is a VMware solution on top of GCVE or Google Cloud VMware Engine, set up network connectivity as well as HCX, which is hybrid cloud extension, in order to go ahead and connect both sides so that you're able to, without any kind of re-IPing or re-platforming, live migrate the virtual machines from on-prem to cloud or to GCVE, and then go ahead and integrate this application to our enterprise platform for Gemini in order to ensure that you can modernize the experience. So with that, let's just quickly look at what is the Bank of Alphabet architecture. It's a 3-tier app. As I said, it models a financial service. It has various different services built into itself. So it's a multi-service application, as I would call it, right from login to accounts, to transactions, and so on and so forth. And it runs as a vApp with a combination of 3-tier, a front-end, back-end, as well as a database server. This is the current interface, which we'll also see in the demo. Now, what we are achieving or trying to achieve is this, right? Once the application has moved over to Google Cloud, over the VPC, it's running inside GCVE, inside that yellow box with the 3 VMs. We are able to extend the network through NSX, Tier 0 and Tier 1, and send any kind of north and south requests over to Gemini Enterprise Platform Agent. What this agent is doing is leveraging models to look at your bank statements and give you live recommendations on what you can do for various different optimization actions. And at the same time, along with these recommendations, it gives you agents which can go ahead and execute those actions on your behalf. Now, this might sound like voodoo magic, but let's look at the demo to see what is the before experience, what is the entire migration path, and then what is the after experience once we move Bank of Alphabet over to GCVE. So here, I'll start with the demo, where we'll take you through that particular experience. So right now, I'm going to Bank of Alphabet. It's running on-prem. I'm logging in. It's a standard interface where I can go ahead and see all the transactions. And then I can go ahead and do new transactions, like I'll pay some money to Prashanth, because he paid for the drink last night. So I'll go ahead and pay him $35. And there is where the transaction gets registered into the database, and I can start seeing that. Let's just jump over to the on-prem vCenter and start looking at this application. Pretty straightforward. It's a vApp with backend, database, and frontend. And you can see that this has a specific configuration right now. Now I'll jump over to our Migration Center. And Migration Center will allow me to go ahead and do assessment of this application and see what do I need to move it. So let's start with getting some initial estimates of sizing as well as price. I'll select the target as Google Cloud VMware Engine. And in this assessment, I'm going to go ahead and provide the whole scale of the application. So not just 3 VMs, but what is the overall number of CPUs, what are the number of nodes, the number of amount of memory, amount of storage needed in order to run the entirety of this application, and then advanced settings for vSAN as well, whether it's deduplication, whether it's compression. And then finally, once I run this scenario, I'm able to get an outcome of what exactly is the price estimate of running this application on Google Cloud VMware Engine. Along with that, I also get suggestions on how many licenses I need from Broadcom in order to make sure that I can bring them on over to the platform. Now that we know the overall capacity, let's jump on to Google Cloud Console. And from the console, we'll go ahead and go to VMware Engine, which is our service. And in this service, I get an opportunity to go ahead and create a new private cloud. A new private cloud is a combination of vSphere hosts, which are pre-deployed, pre-configured in a cluster. I'll give it a name and a description. I'll select a standard private cloud. I can do a stretch private cloud as well if I need to. Select a region, give it a cluster name, so whatever the first cluster which we want to bring up. Select a node type, and then select the networking segment to be configured for the management IPs. Once I'm done, I've just clicked the Create button, and it takes under 2 hours, depending on the size of the cluster, to create the entire private cloud ready for you to use. So the nodes are created, the management clusters or management or VCF itself is deployed. I can start seeing all the appliances. Let's just jump into HCX, which is the hybrid cloud extension, which is also pre-deployed. Under HCX, I get the opportunity to pair the on-prem site with the Google Cloud VMware Engine site. The pairing is done. I'm now jumping into the Bank of Alphabet pair, which I've created. And let's just go ahead and look at the topology. So HCX, which is a VMware product, provides a great way to visualize your source and destination networks and map them before you start the migration of the application. I've already created that for this demo, and I've created a mobility group which combines the 3 applications or 3 VMs which I want to move: the backend, the database, as well as the front-end workload. Now, what I'm doing is I'm mapping them as to what destination folders, data stores, et cetera, they will go to, and then press the Go button. The Go button allows me to do a live migration, a bulk migration, and then move the VMs over to the Google Cloud VMware Engine without any IP changes. let's look at that now. So we log into the vCenter. One quick thing, you get to use the same vCenter, same NSX manager. Everything is the same from an operational perspective. So I log into the vCenter on Google Cloud VMware Engine now. I can see the 3 nodes which I just deployed. I can see the Bank of Alphabet vApp, which I have moved over along with the 3 VMs, the backend database, and the front-end VMs. So again, from an experience perspective, it's pretty seamless. You've been able to migrate everything without any kind of IP changes at all because HCX managed to stretch the layer 2 network. All right, now that the app is here, it's time for our developer to go ahead and modernize it. Of course, let's just log into the Bank of Alphabet, or we'll log into the Bank of Alphabet, but just a preview of what we did. So in the back end, we are integrating our front-end virtual machine, which is Java code, over to Gemini Enterprise Agent Platform, which was also called Vertex AI in the past. Now I log into Bank of Alphabet in the new world, and boom, I can see that my Alpha API or Alpha AI feature is enabled. I say, yes, I want to generate insights every time. And right off the bat, I can start seeing some insights. I see predictive cash flows and an agent to optimize wealth. I see subscriptions, which are recurring, and I have an agent to go ahead and unsubscribe or manage those services. And I see security threats of any kind of transactions which are not known to my banking account in the past. And I have the option to secure the account to block those transactions. I also have a friendly chatbot experience so that I can ask additional questions if I have to about my banking statement. Now, this is a model application, and we did this under a day to migrate everything over as well as modernize it. So with that, let's just quickly look at the demo recap. So we started with establishing what the application needs. We went ahead and deployed the new private cloud. We established connectivity between on-prem and cloud. We went ahead and did the migration using HCX. And then at the end, we are able to connect the same application to Gemini Enterprise Agent Platform in order to go ahead and build the chatbot feature or Alpha AI Insights feature, along with agents to optimize your subscriptions or any kind of security threats on the Bank of Alphabet application. How about it? Good? Bad? OK, perfect. Awesome. With that, let me just go ahead and invite Prashanth, Damian, as well as Krishna over for this panel, where we will talk about how Renault Group, which is a historic giant, as you all know, Renault as a company. We'll talk about AutoZone's journey, and I'll hand it over to Prashanth for us to take it over.
Good job, man.
Oh, my goodness. Awesome. Thanks, Sunny. Welcome, Hari. Welcome, Damian, for the panel. Thank you so much for sharing your journeys here. It's always helpful for other customers to hear from you firsthand in terms of how your journey has gone. So let's start with just a brief introduction, and maybe if you can also talk about what your goals were with your cloud migration journey to begin with. So maybe we'll start with you, Damian.
Yeah. So hello, everyone. I am Damian from Renault Group. So quick introduction. Renault Group is a French OEM, so automotive industry. We operate in 114 countries. We employ more than 100,000 employees. And we sold last year around, well, more than 2 to 3 million cars. So we have IT challenges that reflect that scale. We have to manage vast amount of data. We have to improve our agility to propose new digital solutions. And we have to also help our business to improve its time to market, which is developing new cars in less than 2 years. So a few years ago, Renault Group has been engaged in a deep transformation of its IS with a clear objective: reduce its dependency to IS, to historical data center, while maintaining the highest availability for critical applications. But well, we faced a challenge because our application landscape is huge. We have more than 1,700 applications. And our modernization capacity was about 70 applications a year. So at that pace, it would have taken us around 20 years. And that's where the partnership with Google comes. With Google, it's a long story. We started in 2018 when we first announced GCP first. In 2022, we signed a strategic alliance, a big partnership. And where GCV appeared to be the best choice to modernize, to lift and shift our VMware application landscape to the cloud.
That scale definitely sounds pretty challenging, so yeah. How about you, Hari?
Morning. My name is Hari Balusulapalem, one of the IT VPs for AutoZone. My responsibilities currently include our cloud program and our B2B technology business. So we started this, at the end of the day, during COVID, we realized the necessity for the scalability has been the biggest opportunity for us. I think while we had stability, scalability, resiliency, all those things are, kind of addressed over the last 6-7 years. What we have seen is that most of our engineering time and effort is going into data center maintenance, upgrades, patching, vulnerability management, that kind of stuff. And our capacity is more focused on keeping the data centers running rather than helping our business and customers against the ever-changing demands. So that's where I think we started this as a stability and a scalability opportunity, and we started the relationship with Google way back in 23, give or take. I think our goals include, first we have a couple of co-locations in US. We wanted to exit the co-locations by January of this year. That's our first goal. Second goal is that some of the things like we thought or we handled as an afterthought, like disasters recovery, failover capabilities, vulnerability management, so forth in the data centers. How can we build them as part of the migration itself? So that was second goal. And third goal is obviously everybody's moving to data, AI, and all that kind of stuff. So we wanted to have a strong platform where not only is just a hosting platform, but their product roadmaps and life cycles are aligning with our goals. So that's where our journey started. Here is our overall journey. We started in 23 May, June-ish. First 6 months we spent around piloting both the products and vendors too at the same time. We picked the most, unlike anybody else, we picked the most complicated ecosystems for the cloud migration. Our thought process is, if we can get this done, the complicated things done, everything will be okay. So I think that paid off. So that's how first 6 months went, and the next 12 to 18 months is where most of our migration, partnering with Google and so forth, we predominantly focused. So with the help of Google and some of the vendors, our vendor partners here as well today, I think we are able to pull it through. I think our target was January 26, and we were completed in December itself. So that was a big deal. So that's been our overall journey.
Awesome. So it sounds like really the scale of the workloads and applications you were looking to migrate, Damian, in your case, and Hari, in your case, it's really the speed of migration as well as the resilience and the opportunities to modernize that were really your top goals. So to make the journey a little more concrete for the audience here, maybe it would be helpful if you both can talk about some key use cases, workload examples, application examples of what you migrated and what the benefits were that you were able to realize, whether it's on the performance front or the cost optimization front or operational resiliency front or others. It would be great to hear from you about that topic as well. So we'll start with you, Damian, again.
Okay, so our application landscape was largely virtualized on VMware. So GCV was quite obvious choice, and GCV allowed to address 3 major use cases. The first one is that we wanted to close our data centers by end of Q1 2026, so we needed to move fast. Second one is we wanted to increase our cloud applications rates to 85%. And for that, GCVE allowed us to move quick without redesigning applications, keeping the same IP addresses. So it was, well, very helpful from this point of view. Then it helped to address specific needs of applications. For example, some third-party vendors do not natively support clouds, so GCVE allows to migrate them. And the third use case is about high availability. In fact, with Google Cloud, we have a level of resilience that exceeds our on-prem capabilities. And that's how we migrated more than 2,700 virtual machines in just 18 months.
Awesome. That's a really good velocity story. How about you, Hari?
I think we are in a similar situation. Most of our workloads, like everybody else, we are on VMware. However, we had a different situation where most of our applications are pretty much, give or take 90%, are already microservices and everything. Our biggest opportunity for the VMware was database workloads, and some of the tier 1 monolith applications, we still have it in our data centers. I think based on how they are architected, GCE is not an optional choice, optimal choice for us. Some of the things are not supported. So we went with GCVE. We started on VE1 nodes, and then we landed on VE2. I think we have both VE1 and VE2 standard nodes. That's one of the criteria. The other criteria is we've been in the data center business for 40 years. So we have a lot of expertise internally on VMware maintenance and management and all so forth. So because of the speed, that was one of the biggest criteria for us. So let's not learn new things when we are trying to move fast. How can we use something that is already available and familiar with? And also we leveraged some of the tools like HCX migration. So we are able to pull it through. I think because of the migration, we have all our data center automation, VM creation. We are already on Ansible and everything. So we leveraged HCX plus on Ansible. So we moved around, like give or take 3,500 VMs. And then I think the VMs move was done in one shot, database and the monolith apps. And then it's a matter of time where the applications leveraging the VMs, we have been throttling from data center to the cloud. At the same time, also we are able to leverage the dual regions, a couple of regions. And one of the reasons we selected Google is we don't want to be in the regions where public cloud provider is available, rather than we want to go to the regions where we want to go. So luckily that helped with Google. So wherever regions we selected, they're there. So HA and high availability, DR, all those things, we have already in place. And the third major option also is the storage-only nodes. So on-prem, that's been a challenge, adding a storage-only nodes. I think GCVE, big time that helped as well. So those are the 2 or 3 criteria where we had to go with VMware, so GCVE per se.
Okay. So it sounds like a common theme that's emerging is really about operational continuity, the fact that you can continue to use the interfaces your teams and you have been familiar with for a long time. So maybe we can talk about how the transition has gone for you now that you've gone through the journeys, what kind of outcomes you've been able to achieve, and also if you can share, I think it'll be particularly helpful if the audience can learn from you in terms of, are there best practices, any sort of lessons learned that you'd like to share that would be helpful as well? So again, we'll start with you, Damian.
Okay. So first of all, the GCVE migration is a technical project, but we need to have an organizational approach, and we structured our approach in 3 phases. First, we set the foundation, choosing the technical solution for storage, backup. We run a business case to validate our model. We chose a partner, a very important point, and we'll talk about that later. Then we launched pilots that allowed us to build a migration factory. The migration factory is our industrial tool that allowed us to migrate thousands of applications without changing the IP address and without rewriting the code. And then we migrated. One other important point is about communication. So as I said, it's a technical project, but it implies IS teams and business. So you need to communicate to help them understand and to support them in this project. And I think, if we move forward on the slides, we have some KPIs. So very important point also is about the choice of the partner. You need to have a partner who knows your business, who knows your IS, who understands. And so we chose Accenture to help us in this migration with a strong involvement, as you can see, because they spent more than 20,000 man days on this project. And I think that's pretty much the main key lessons.
Okay, and lessons learned as well?
That's what, so resonance is what I just said, key partner, communication, and structured approach.
And the partner choice as well.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So, Hari as well?
So I think our lesson learned, similar to what Renault Group has gone through, choosing the right partner, making the migration as an internal journey. I think some of the organizations have a tendency to, bring bulk load of contracting people and then say partners are going to do it. At the end of the day, if your internal associates are the people who need to innovate and support going forward, I think taking them along the journey is more important. That is definitely one of the, I would not say lesson, that's the thing that we have taken very seriously. So that helped actually the migration process even fastening as well. So initial phase, we have 2 phases of the migration. First phase, we are leveraging partners heavy. And then at the second phase, I think our team stepped up big time. And then, we were able to manage 30 to 40% of the workloads ourselves itself. That's one thing. And then, from a GCVE point of view, the lessons learned is, because we used for a database workloads point of view, I think understanding the connectivity and how your apps talk to database is very key, because when the app and database are sitting in the same location or a cage in the data center, you may not see a lot of performance issues, but when you go to the cloud, it's a different ballgame. So some of your inefficiencies of the applications will automatically show up on day one. So understanding your architecture is important, and connectivity is other thing. Between your native GKE and GCE and Cloud Run versus GCVE, understanding the connectivity, having some visibility into observability around the GCVE area. I think those are the things that we definitely have lesson learned. I think thankfully we were able to work with Google partners, and wherever we had some challenges, when we started VE1, we don't have a lot of observability things, and then eventually all those things are addressed and it made our life easy. I think the lesson learned, leverage tools like HCX, and then the other thing is like having a strong engagement with your Google leadership is pretty key, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, now we can say whatever, we have migrated so much, but it was not. It was an interesting journey. So I will put that way. So I think we have faced different challenges with some of the products at different levels, but having an executive connect and making the people accountable on both sides actually made our journey smoother than expected. So those are our tips and lessons if you want to take.
Okay, yeah, that's very helpful. I think there's a few different themes that emerged. Really, it's about ensuring that you're taking the time to plan out the migrations, being aware of the differences and the connectivity architectures and things like that, leveraging partners for you, Damian, and then really taking the time to partner with Google and the Google teams as well to make sure your needs are really addressed along your transition journey. Those seem like the top lessons emerging from both of you.
And having a strong foundations too. So we don't have everything in place when we started. We started with a pilot version of the foundations, and over a period of time, we started adding on the top of it and improving it.
Yep.
Because even if you spend 3 years, your foundation is never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
So you need to start from something, and then revise on the top, or rinse and repeat kind of a model.
And you mentioned earlier the way you liked to iterate was to really pick your most complex
Correct.
workloads first and then iterate further. So yeah, that's super interesting. Thank you. And maybe we can end the discussion by talking about, now that you've gone through the migration journey with all this scale of workloads you talked about, going forward, what do you see as next for you? How do you look at putting the data and the applications that you've already migrated to work to sort of innovate for your business going forward? And again, we'll start with you, Damian.
Well, now that we are on GCVE, we are on kind of a bridge between our existing IT and the cloud-native applications. So we need to keep going and keep modernizing our applications to migrate them now from GCVE to GKE and GCE. And well, we need to improve our usage of AI, as shown in the previous slides.
So from our point of view, I think some of the things, benefits we are already seeing, right? So, particularly like when there is a hiccup in the Google platform, or there is any opportunities on our side, having the dual regions and everything. So the failover has been helpful, and particularly we being the retailers in the seasonal, promotional seasons, scalability and everything, we can scale up and scale down whenever we want based on the needs. That has been helpful. So that being said, we, as Sunny said, we had data silos. So we are able to finally bring all the data into our data lake and then Google. And now we have slowly started our journey to leverage AI and do some of the reporting, advanced analytics and reporting and so forth. At the same time, GCVE is for us as a bridge. So here is the opportunity that we are looking at some of the things where we leverage Gen AI tools, where during migration, changing the entire ORM layer is going to be a heavy lift. So now, luckily for us, the tools have matured. Now is the right time to leverage them. And if we want to go to a different database solution, we can fasten that migration of the data layer itself so that modernization end-to-end is complete. So that's the other option we're looking at. And some of the initial phases of Gemini enterprise adoption when it comes to automation and some of the productivity and all the stuff. Those are the, data being closer to GCVE is one of the biggest advantage we have, and everything being in one place in a data lake is where we are looking forward to make some of the smarter decisions going forward.
Okay, that's super helpful. Thank you both for sharing your insights and sharing more about your journey. Nothing is more satisfying to me as a product person than hearing from customers firsthand about their journeys and how it's creating an impact for their businesses. Last but not the least, we would like to have this call to action highlighted for you. If you want to learn more about either the Assess program or the RAMP program and so on, there's a couple of QR codes here that you can use. And also, if you can move to the last slide, this is super important. Please take a moment to give us your feedback. It'll be greatly appreciated. We are really doing this for you and your learning and benefit. We would love to hear from you. Thank you all.